I've just rewatched Lamont versus Danny Garcia. It's taken me a little while to get the video up. I watched it very tired indeed on Saturday night. At the time, I thought Garcia had won, and I thought really, as I knew the fight was very controversial, as a lot of people were, saying there were very wide scores, and as I was very tired at the time, I thought I'd better rewatch it in order to do it justice in a post-fight video. Now, let me say, I don't view this fight as too difficult to score. However, I appreciate it is a close fight. Now, I was listening to the Boxing Voice, and you had guys ringing in saying they gave 9 rounds, 8 rounds, 10 rounds to Lamont Peterson, that Lamont should have won easy. I personally just cannot see it that way. And let me say, I'm someone who typically favours the boxer rather than the brawler. I'm someone who gives reward to guys who can move, to guys who can jab, to guys who have a back foot game. I'm someone who appreciates that element to the game. But in this fight, I scored it to Danny Garcia. I agreed with 2 of the 3 judges, 115 to 113. Let me start by saying this isn't how I expected the fight to go. Anyone who watched my pre-fight video, I got Danny Garcia as the winner, correct? But I expected this stylistically to be fought inside a phone box, to be a bit of a barroom brawl. I expected Lamont Peterson to try and use similar tactics to what he used against Amir Khan. I got that badly wrong. I wasn't expecting the way Lamont fought this fight. I was surprised. Lamont surprised me. I'm sure he surprised Danny Garcia, and I'm sure he surprised the majority of people watching. But Lamont really did so. He's got a lot of different facets to his game. So first thing first, not the way I expected the fight to go. And I think another point to make is sometimes the fighter who looks the best doesn't deserve to be the winner. Boxing, we score it based on a 12 round. You pick the winner each round. You're kind of stuck to those rules. So if somebody looks absolutely dominant in 5 of the 12 rounds and someone else looks slightly the better fighter in 7 of the 12 rounds, the guy who wins the 7 rounds, even though they're tight, deserves to win. And I think you get that. I scored Andy Lee, Peter Quillen a draw. In my eyes, Peter Quillen clearly the better fighter. Clearly the more effective. Definitely the guy I'd favour in a rematch. Certainly just a better all-round fighter. And arguably in this fight, Lamont came out of it at the end looking like the better fighter. But there's a few irrelevant factors people are taking into, and who is the better fighter is somewhat irrelevant. Who's got the most marked up face is somewhat irrelevant. Who did the most glamorous showboating? Who had the best sort of fancy footwork tricks? Who threw the best sort of windmill, punches is irrelevant. What is relevant is who was the most effective each round. Who landed the most shots each round. And I think it comes down to that. You have to score the fights on punches landed. And people, I think, are getting too het up about semi-irrelevant factors, like the fact Danny Garcia had a marked face, like the fact Lamont was showboating. That's just not how we score boxing. Pretty much, I won't go through my scorecard each round because it's boring, but pretty much I'll sum it up like this. I found it hard to give Lamont Peterson much of the first 7 rounds. There's an argument that certain rounds were so low volume you could score them 10-10 rounds, but I pretty much sided with Danny Garcia for the first 7, and I pretty much sided with Lamont for the last 5. I think there was one round, maybe the 4th round you give to Lamont, maybe, I forget which, but there was one round maybe in the last half you could edge to Danny Garcia. So maybe I gave Danny 6 of the first 7 and 1 of the last 5. But either way, I definitely had Garcia ahead. And I really thought Lamont just really didn't do very much in the first 7 rounds. There were very few moments of the fight where I saw Lamont landing effectively in the first 7 round. From the beginning, I just saw Lamont as quite ineffective and quite low volume. He was pumping with a jab, but the jab was this annoying, flicky thing. And one thing that I didn't think the commentators did any justice to is how ineffective and how inaccurate Lamont Peterson's jab was. Yet he kept missing Danny Garcia. He kept not reaching Danny Garcia. It was to the side, it wasn't long enough. Yeah, I thought Lamont Peterson's jab in the first half of the fight was really, really ineffective. I thought it was surprisingly inaccurate. You know, Lamont was moving around the ring fairly well, certainly I'll give him that. But that is not enough to score someone fights. I mean, how many times did you see Lamont landing cleanly on Danny Garcia? For me, it just wasn't enough to score the fights. For me, Danny was pushing the pace. Danny was looking to throw combinations. Danny was doing early body work. You know, it wasn't like knockout power, but Danny was landing to the body. Danny was throwing power shots to the head, and Danny was just pushing the pace. He was the more aggressive fighter with the higher volume. Now, I think when you have situations like that, a Floyd Maidana situation where Maidana was the volume puncher, Maidana was forcing the pace, you can still give the rounds to Floyd, but only on the basis that Floyd is being the far more effective, accurate puncher. And I just didn't see that from Lamont Peterson here. Yes, he was on his back foot. Yes, he was moving well. Yes, he was pumping the jab. But it was single punches. He was not throwing combinations. He was not hurting Danny Garcia. And I thought he was inaccurate. I just really didn't see anything to give him rounds at all early on. I just didn't see that. And as I say, I'm someone who appreciates the footwork. I'm someone who appreciates the movement. I'm someone who often sides with the boxers in the boxer punching debate. But Lamont Peterson, inaccurate single shots, inaccurate jab, very limited power. I just didn't see much to score him. He did do certain things well. The movement was really, really good. You know, he did do certain things well, but it just wasn't enough to score him rounds. And even though Garcia was maybe looking slightly uglier, slightly less refined, you know, slightly less technical, even though Garcia's footwork was noticeably poorer, more one-dimensional, even though Garcia's foot speed was noticeably slower, I just felt Garcia was the more active fighter who was landing the more clean shots in the first half of the fight. You know, Peterson did do some things well, and the rounds he won towards the end of the fight, he won more clearly than Danny Garcia. But I just cannot see an argument to give Peterson 7 rounds in that fight. He just wasn't active enough early on, and as I say, I find it very hard to score him anything in the first 7 rounds of the fight. So for me, Danny Garcia is a deserved winner. He really is a deserved winner. Lamont could have won, Lamont should have won. It was a close fight, but Lamont did not win. And it's the same with Lee Quillen. Quillen should have won the fight. He was clearly the better fighter, but he didn't deserve to win because he threw it away from low volume, inactivity, a poor tactical game at times from Quillen. And it was similar to Lamont Peterson. He had a lot of advantages in there. He really looked like the superior guy, but in my opinion, he threw it away. There's a similarity between both fights. I mean, when we're on the subject, let's talk the size difference. Lamont Peterson looked massive in there. I heard in the Boxing Voice that he came in at 167. That's crazy. That means he put on something like 25 pounds after the weigh-in. Now I remember back in the Amir Khan fight, they were saying he put on 16 pounds. But for Lamont Peterson to be coming in to a light welterweight fight as a very big super middleweight is absolutely crazy. But how does a man do that? How can you drain 25 pounds in a day, rehydrate 25 pounds, fight 12 rounds, and look like the stronger, fitter fighter? I mean, that would kill me. That would kill any normal man, you'd think. There's something, I don't get it. Does Lamont Peterson have an ability 10 pounds above any other man? Yeah, I really don't get that, and I think that needs to be looked into. For me, that is really quite bizarre. But Lamont Peterson looked noticeably the bigger man in there. He was able to bully Danny. And when we're on the subject, I think Danny should stay away from 147 pounds. You know, he looked small in there, and I think that affected him. I think his power wasn't as effective as it had normally been. He was, you know, pushed around a bit by Lamont towards the end of the fight, and I think being the smaller man in there for so long took its toll on him. If Danny Garcia is fighting guys like Kell Brook, guys like Keith Thurman, guys like Marcus Maidana, he's going to experience the same problem again. And I thought it affected him in this fight. I think if possible he should try and stay at 140. I think the competition is a lot deeper at 147, and I think it plays less to his strengths. That's my personal opinion. You know, for me, Danny Garcia, whilst he deserved to win this fight, clearly he didn't look spectacular. The movement was poor, the punch versatility was poor, the accuracy wasn't great, the defence wasn't great. He can clearly be outmoved, outboxed. His foot speed is very, very limited, and he's somewhat predictable. I honestly think Adrian Broner beats him. I really do. I think he can be outboxed, and an elite defensive fighter who showed an improved jab last time out, like Adrian Broner, I think could have his way with him. I also think Chris Algieri could beat him, based on the performance that Algieri put in against Provodnikov, that sort of jab and move fight. Obviously, Amir Khan's not got the best chin in the world and can always be knocked out, but I'd certainly pick Khan in a rematch. I'd pick Marcus Maidana against him. I think Maidana would have similar success to Lamont Peterson in the last half of the fight, but I don't think Maidana would leave it 7 rounds to turn it on. I pick all of those guys over him at the minute. Broner, Algieri, Khan, Maidana. I give Danny Garcia 0 chance against Floyd Mayweather. I mean, the way Lamont Peterson was sort of dancing around him made Lamont Peterson look like Sugar Ray Leonard. Imagine what Floyd Mayweather would do to Danny Garcia. As for Lamont Peterson, where does he go? You know, clearly the guy's a beast if he can stay at light welterweight. This going up and down 2 stone before a fight, I'm not sure what that's all about. That cannot be good for his health, and I'm surprised that doesn't affect him in the ring. I'd like to see Lamont Peterson versus Provodnikov. I think that's a good fight. I think Lamont Peterson could beat Provodnikov using... I think what I like about Lamont Peterson is he's got that versatility. He can fight inside a phone box, he can throw power shots to the body, he can fight on the inside, he can rough someone up on the inside. He can also move, he can also be slick, he can also try and box on the back foot. He's a versatile fighter. For me, he lacks punching power, he lacks accuracy, and in many ways he was flattered based on a poor Danny Garcia. But regardless of the fact Garcia was poor, regardless of the fact Lamont Peterson looked the better fighter, regardless of the fact that Danny was marked up and Lamont was doing crazy showboating, you've got to score this fight to Danny Garcia in my mind. Let me know your thoughts. I'm interested to discuss. Let me know your thoughts on the size difference. Let me know who you'd like to see Garcia fight next. Should he move up to 147? What do you make of Lamont Peterson going up and down by that much in weight? How do you see Danny Garcia versus Floyd, Khan, Maidana, Algieri, Broner? Let's discuss. Thanks for watching.